Hello friends, I am Pushpinder Kaur, Professor, University Institute of Legal Studies, Punjab University, Chandigarh. This video will explain writing empirical research-based LL.M dissertation and Ph.D law thesis. First of all, you need to formulate problem profile, which outlines the specific issues that you want to research. Provide clear and concise description of the problem, challenges it is posing to the society, environment, etc., why the issue needs to be addressed. So problem could be relating to refugees, or it could be relating to environment, or relating to child labor. Choose topic according to your interest. After identifying the problem, you need to review the literature. We also call it as literature review. It is critical examination of existing research, scholarly works related to your research topic. Organize the literature on basis of themes or chronologically or alphabetically. It should not be done in haphazard manner. Summarize and synthesize the key findings and arguments from each source. Rather than writing it as it is, you should try to give your own inputs and include your own creativity while writing the review of literature. Then also mention the strengths, weaknesses of each source. Explain the methodology which has been used, the flaws in it, the biases or limitations of the sources. Then, after reviewing the literature, you find research gap. So, research gap is the unanswered question in the existing literature. Explain how your research will contribute to fill these gaps. Then you formulate research objectives. Research objectives are specific measurable goals that you want to achieve through your research. For example, to evaluate impact of hazardous waste on human health and environment, to evaluate the implementation of national laws for proper disposal of hazardous waste, to analyze the magnitude of hazardous waste in Western Ghats of India. Now you are working on hazardous waste. Keep in mind that research objectives start with word to. Then, based on the research objectives, you formulate your research questions. So, research questions they guide investigation. That is, what is the extent of hazardous waste problem in Western Ghats of India? How does international environmental law address the issue of hazardous waste? And then there could be many other questions. And the questions could be what, when, why, where, who, how. Research questions should be framed in such a manner that they help in achieving research objectives. After research questions, next important step is writing hypothesis. So if you have one hypothesis, you write it with SIS, and if you have more than one, you use it in plural. This is common mistake committed by the students writing the spellings of hypothesis or hypothesis. So what is hypothesis? It is a testable proposition or an educated guess or an assumption that suggests possible outcomes. For example, if you are writing it on hazardous waste, stricter hazardous waste regulation can ensure proper management of hazardous waste and increased compliance by the operators of the facilities handling hazardous waste. So here we are emphasizing on regulations. If they are stricter in nature, then hazardous waste would be properly managed. and it would increase the compliance by the operators of the facilities who are handling hazardous waste. Now, what is empirical research? So, in empirical research, the researcher relies on collection of observable factual data as basis of drawing conclusions. So you formulate a research design which includes samples, questionnaires, how many questions in each set, etc. So you should be designing your question in such a manner that minimum questions cover maximum objectives. If you have too many questions, people hesitate to fill that questionnaire. Then you take sample size depending upon the theme of research. Suppose it is relating to e-waste and everyone is using phones or tablets or washing machines or refrigerators and they are discarded. So sample size could be bigger. For LLM, it could be 200 to 250 respondents you could be interviewing. Or for Ph.D, it could be 400 to, you can say, 450 respondents. Acid attack, it is not easy to find many victims of acid attack. So you could be adopting case study method here, where you interview the victim in detail. So for LLM, there could be 5 to 7 studies. For Ph.D, there could be 10 to 15 case studies of the victims of acid attack. That field work involves collection of data. So when the researcher himself is doing, we call it as primary data. Secondary data, we call it as already existing data, which is collected by previous researchers or other institutions or organizations. Data can be quantitative or it could be qualitative. Quantitative data is that can be measured, like how much, what is the height, weight, size, income, marks, how much hazardous waste disposed annually. And qualitative, it cannot be measured, like marital status, whether a person is male, female, education, rank, nature of violence, kind of hazardous waste, nature of hazardous waste. So, like we are dealing with acid attack victims and their condition, the sufferings they undergo, that would be covered under qualitative. And how many victims were there, whether they got adequately compensated, what was the amount of compensation awarded to them, that would be covered under quantitative data. Mixed method, in it could be mixed method. Mixed method involves both qualitative and quantitative data. Data can be collected by way of observation, like the skin of the acid attack victim was shriveled, or the person was terrorized, or if it is relating to environment, the color of water had changed due to disposal of hazardous waste. It could be by way of survey. So, survey of respondents, like you do it by questionnaire or by interviews. It could be acid attack victims or victims of sexual harassment or domestic violence, water pollution, improper disposal of hazardous waste, and whatever your topic of interest could be. Empirical research involves collection of data, tabulation of data, presenting that numerics into rows and columns in logical and systematic manner. Then analyzing data, there are various softwares available in the market, uh, which you can use for analyzing data. It could be SPS, Python, most popular is Microsoft Excel. Then you need to interpret the data and you need to represent into pie charts or histograms or line graphs. Then you have to test the hypothesis, whether your assumptions got proved by the data. Then comes chapterization. So you start with introduction, which includes problem profile, review of literature, research gap, research objectives, research questions, hypothesis, your summary of chapters. Then you write about historical background in the next chapter, whether the problem arose in ancient times or medieval or it is of recent origin. Then international law, which includes convention, declarations, resolutions, laws of other countries. Then the next chapter is relating to national laws, which include provisions of constitution, laws are related to the topic of thesis or dissertation, policies. The next chapter is relating to role of judiciary, NGOs, etc. in tackling the problem. And then is the most important chapter that is relating to your research and findings. So it includes data collection, that analysis of the data, interpretation, testing of hypothesis, which we have already described in detail in the previous slides. And then you conclude, and conclusion should be crisp, to the point, it should not be vague. And then in the form of suggestions, you make recommendations that how you can control or prevent this problem and how we can have better practices. Then comes referencing and bibliography. The sources you are using, they should be authentic, reputed journals, books, magazines, etc. It could be YouTube videos also. Then referencing style, whatever your university prescribes, you have to follow that style. Then you have to write bibliography. Bibliography is written in alphabetic manner. And then there are ethical issues involved that you have to take care. You should avoid plagiarism. The manuscript should be tested on similarity index software. The similarity index should be less than 10%. And then you should avoid any free kind of plagiarism check softwares. They can create problem for you. Then various ethical issues are involved. You should avoid fake and fabricated data, intentional wrong interpretations, confidential confidentiality of respondents needs to be maintained. Wherever necessary, take informed consent, and grammar check has to be there. It is not an ethical issue, but your manuscript or thesis or dissertation, it has to be in presentable form. It should be free of spelling errors or grammatical errors. And writing empirical research work is enriching and enjoyable experience because this is your personal work. Thank you friends for watching this video.